Salutations and thank you guys so much for joining me for another video. Today I'm going over the top 32 options at running back for fantasy football in week number 15. It is a crucial week. Fantasy playoffs have started for most of us, so it is more important than ever that we get all of the best news, knowledge, stats, and information that we can, wrap that up together to try to make the best decisions possible to crush our opponents and go after those dubs, make our push for that championship. I'm gonna do everything in my power to try and help you get there. Make sure you drop any questions, any comments you have down below. I get back in a reasonable amount of time and I usually leave a pretty detailed response as well. I try to give you guys the whys behind the information that I am telling you. If you are watching the video and you find yourself enjoying the content, please crush that like button for me and continue to move the channel forward. We hit our goal of 500 subscribers. We are now on our way to 1,000. If you have not done it yet, you can help us get there, and your support is greatly appreciated. If you are new to the channel, Relentless Press drops content Monday to Saturday. I'm doing over 10 videos every single week. I also update all of these rankings on Saturdays with shorts. So if you got 5 minutes over the weekend, you can get my new thoughts based on all of the information we receive through the middle of the week and help get you fully prepared to lock in your lineups. With that out of the way, let's hop into week 15's running back rankings. My number one back of the week is Derrick Henry. He travels to LA to take on the Chargers. He busted out of his slump in a big way, racking up 155 total yards on 20 touches with a score against the Jags. I think it is more of the same here against a terrible rushing defense in Los Angeles. The King will go over 100 yards and find the end zone once again. At the 2 spot is Christian McCaffrey. He looks to be all the way back after posting his first 100-yard rushing game since way back in week number 3. CMC has done it both in the air and on the ground over the last 2 weeks, posting back-to-back top 2 finishes. The Hawks allow the second most points per game to rushers, so McCaffrey is going to be a threat to Henry for the number 1 spot this week. Austin Ekeler is up next. He is likely to be stymied on the ground against the Titans, but just like I said last week, it is going to be his passing game chops that carry him through. Ekeler has 186 yards on 24 catches over his last 3 games and is just 23 catches away from breaking CMC's season record for most receptions in a season by a running back. Tony Pollard is in at 4. He is the RB7 on the season. Didn't think that was possible, but it looks like hashtag free Tony Pollard has hit its peak. He posted another top 5 finish against Houston. That was his 3rd of those in the last 4 games. I will say the usage has been a bit concerning. He's had just 22 carries over his last 2 games, but with another top 10 matchup on deck here, Pollard will shine once again. Into tier 2, and at the top of it is Jonathan Taylor, traveling to Minnesota to take on the Vikings. He's had at least 23 carries in each of his last 4 games, and that type of workload against this Vikings defense means a monster day is in store for him. Taylor is also going to be fresh, coming off of the bye, so I think he is set up to crush the Vikings into submission. Miles Sanders is my 6th ranked back. He paid off my higher than consensus ranking on him last week. He had a huge day against the Giants. Sanders has over 150 total yards and 2 scores in 2 out of his last 3 games. I think he continues to dominate the Bears here. They allow nearly 23 points a game to rushers. That is 6th most in the NFL. Josh Jacobs is at the top of tier 3. In at the 7th spot, he came just 1 yard shy of making his 4th straight 100-yard rushing performance, but he did make it 5 straight finishes in the top 10 against the Rams. He is going to need another big day here to try to take some pressure off of Derek Carr, and I think the volume will once again be enough for him to hit against a tough Patriots front. Dalvin Cook is in at 8. He could not get anything going whatsoever against Detroit, but he did salvage managers' days with a score behind a makeshift offensive line. The Colts are going to give him another chance at a strong performance. They're allowing over 5 yards per carry over their last 3 games. 5th most in the NFL. Joe Mixon is at the top of tier 4, and at 9, he would have had an even bigger day if he didn't get vultured by Samaje Perine near the goal line against the Browns, but I digress. He is going to need his passing game to return here. It was kind of absent last week, but he does have 30 yards receiving or more in 4 out of his last 5, so I think that is more than plausible. Isiah Pacheco rounds out my top 10. He gets Houston. He put up yet another top 20 finish against a great Denver D last week, and he gets rewarded with a matchup against the league's worst rushing defense. The Texans are surrendering over 27 points per game to backs, so Kansas City's clear #1 option in the backfield could be in for his best game of this season. Ezekiel Elliott is in at 11. He will go for 3 straight RB1 finishes with teammate Tony Pollard, and I do not see the Jags being able to slow him down. Jacksonville is giving up over 21 points a game to running backs, and with 8 touchdowns in his last 6 games, Zeke is going to continue to eat. Nick Chubb is my last RB1 in week 15. He gets a tough matchup against Baltimore here, and he has now failed to get inside the top 24 in 3 out of his last 4 games. He drops considerably, not only because of that, but because of this brutal matchup. The Ravens are allowing the 6th fewest points per game to backs on the season, and they've held rushers to an incredible 2.8 yards per carry over their last 3 games, easily the best in the league. There is no passing game usage for Chubb, so I think he is in for a long day. To the top of tier 5, Alvin Kamara sits there. He gets Atlanta. He's had 0 success over the last 2 weeks, both against elite rush defenses. He posted finishes of RB45 and then RB51, but I do not think that will be the case against the Falcons. I think he scores in just his 2nd game of the year. Only 8 teams have given up more rushing scores than Atlanta. Saquon Barkley falls a little bit to 14. He lost the battle to the game script last week, and he was not able to salvage his day with a touchdown, which he has had a habit of doing and did in his previous 2. Crazy stat here for you. Barkley has as many rushing yards over the last 4 weeks than he did in the 1 game he had back in week 10 against Houston. I think this is a sign that his injuries are clearly affecting his play. He is going to tough it out in this one, but if he fails to find the end zone, I think he might disappoint in a big way. Zonovan Knight flies up to my top 15. He gets Detroit. He's now posted back-to-back top 13 finishes, but he could find things a little more difficult than anticipated against the Lions. Detroit has given up just 2 rushing scores over their last 3 games, and they just held Dalvin Cook to a paltry 23 yards on 15 carries, but I am in on Bam because of the volume. David Montgomery is my sweet 16. He will shoulder a heavy load once again to try to help out Justin Fields. So even though this matchup is not great, I think the volume will be. Monty is averaging over 100 total yards in his last 3 games, and I think he has a chance to do that again here against Philly. Moving on to 17, it is Travis Etienne, sitting at top tier number 6. I think he is in for a battle all day against Dallas. The Cowboys have allowed just 3.5 yards per carry and only 2 rushing scores over the last 3 games. And when you tack on the fact that Etienne has struggled mightily in 4 straight himself, there is definitely more risk than we would like. Najee Harris is next. He travels to Carolina. He scored 4 touchdowns in his last 4 games, but is not likely to be able to lean on that here, as the Panthers have given up just a single rushing score over their last 3. Harris has flashed better efficiency of late than we have seen early in the season, so there's still hope he could have a solid showing. Aaron Jones is my next man up. He's at 19. I think he's going to be a decent option if he is healthy this week, but the Rams are a top 10 rushing defense on the season. If Aaron Donald is out once again with that high ankle sprain, I like this matchup a heck of a lot more, but with Jones also nursing a shin injury, I think it's going to be more A.J. Dillon in this game than managers would like. J.K. Dobbins rounds out my top 20. He exploded in his first game back since week 6, rushing for 120 yards on 15 carries, and he also posted a touchdown. He is just a top 20 play here because we never know how the touches are going to be distributed in Baltimore's backfield, and Gus Edwards did see 12 carries of his own last week. However, Dobbins could crush this ranking with a top 3 matchup. If he gets the lion's share of the opportunities, he has legit top 10 potential. I have Dameon Pierce at 21. I am going to rank him for now, but make sure you check back in on Saturday for my updated rankings once we know more about Pierce's ankle injury. For what it is worth, head coach Lovie Smith said that it would take an awful lot for him not to go against the Chiefs, so owners can have some hope but also have a backup plan in place. Cam Akers is up next at 22. He scored 3 times over his last 2 games, and he also gets a top 8 matchup that he can exploit here. Green Bay has allowed 5.7 yards per carry and 6 rushing scores over their last 3 games, so I love his chances of hitting as a low-end RB2. Jamaal Williams tumbles, he's at 23. He did not need to do much against Minnesota as the Lions lit up the sky against the Vikings, but it is certainly a concerning trend that he's dropped 3 straight duds in a row. He's averaging well under 3 yards per carry over his last 2 games, and the Jets are not going to make it easy to stop the bleeding, so if you're playing him, you are once again just hoping for a touchdown. My last RB2 in week 15 is D'Onta Foreman. He posted his first RB2 finish since way back in week 10 against Seattle, and I think he's able to get there again even in a perceived tough matchup with Pittsburgh. The Steelers are allowing 5 yards per carry over their last 3 games. That is 6th most in the NFL. And we know as long as this game is close, the volume is going to be there. Rachaad White is at the top of tier 8 and at 25. He was once again productive with the opportunities that he had. He was the clear number 1 back against San Francisco. Cincy is a middle of the pack defense, slowing down running backs, but with how Tampa Bay's offense has looked, it is hard to have more confidence in him than this. His teammate Leonard Fournette follows him at 26. He's posted 5 straight finishes in the top 25, mostly because of his work in the passing game, and that is probably the case here yet again. He has 14 targets over his last 2 games. At 27 is Brian Robinson Jr. He may split more work than owners would like, but he's had 39 carries in his last 2 games, and both of those were top 20 finishes. As an added bonus, 2 weeks ago against these very Giants, B-Rob went for 111 total yards. Latavius Murray is at 28. He saw just 11 opportunities against the Chiefs as Denver had to go to the air to keep up with Kansas City. The good news is that he does have 9 targets over his last 3 games, and the Cardinals have allowed 4.6 yards per carry on the season. That is 10th most in the NFL. To my 9th tier and my last one, it is kicked off by Jerick McKinnon. He lapped the field last week as the overall RB1. He turned 13 touches into 134 total yards and a pair of scores. And while I always say do not chase the points, if you want to gamble here, you are allowed because he has the best possible matchup on deck. However, just be aware that McKinnon is a pure boom or bust option. To round out my top 30 is Devin Singletary. I think he rebounds against Miami after seeing just 9 total touches against the Jets. But even in this top 10 matchup, I do not love him. Singletary has been losing work to James Cook, and that is enough to make owners worry. He does offer some decent upside if you're feeling lucky. AJ Dillon is up next at 31. He now has back-to-back RB1 finishes for the first time all season, but unless Aaron Jones misses time, he is likely going to be relegated back to the breather role for the pack. I think he's used maybe a little bit more than that just because of the injury to Aaron Jones, but that has rarely translated into a top 30 finish for him. Antonio Gibson is the last running back that I am looking at. I think he should be better than he has been over the last 2 games because he had that bye week to get healthy, but there is a lack of clarity around the touches in the backfield here, so it is a lot of risk to be rolling him out there. He has shown top 15 upside fairly recently, in fact twice since week number 10, otherwise he would have missed my list entirely. A couple of guys I am keeping out of my rankings at least for now include Kenneth Walker. We know he's got that injury. He would have a tough matchup against San Francisco if he can go. Jeff Wilson Jr. with his injury, he gets Buffalo. Cordero Patterson, James Cook, and Gus Edwards. And that is all I got for you guys in Week 15's running back rankings. Please drop your questions or your comments down below. I love the engagement and being able to support you guys. If you have not done it yet, make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel as well. Both of those things are greatly appreciated. They help continue to push the channel forward, get it out to people who maybe have not seen it yet. To all my current subscribers out there, I wish you the best of luck in this critical week. Hope you can go out and get some dubs for the RP fam. This is Relentless Press. I am your host, Abraham Opatz, and I will see you next time.